Hi, and good evening, and welcome to another episode of Tottenham Tantrum Gold, your home of classic games and classic content and classic debate about all that's past of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. Tonight, we are looking at the managers under Alan Sugar, the good to the very, very, very bad. Oh, Lord. It's giving me nightmares thinking about it already. Right. Tonight, joining me is a man that needs no introduction this world over. He is Levy's nightmare. He is the man that will make Levy run up the hills and scream, "Get me out of here." He is the one. He is the only. Brian, let's get Levy out. Daigle, how are you, sir? And thank you for coming on again.
It's always a pleasure, and I'm ranking these intros in order. And yesterday's was good, but that was outstanding. That was absolutely brilliant, Dermot. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the show again, mate. Absolute honour.
And my other co-host, well, this man needs no introduction. He rarely does wear fat caps like Father Christmas wears his Santa hat. You should get shares in the flat cap community. He is the one. He is the only. Kuva, the flat cap man, 99. How are you, sir?
I'm brilliant, thanks. But let's be fair. The flat cap man. That is always going to be David Harris. He's sort of the face of the flat caps.
Yeah.
Same as Brian as the face of everything anti-Levy, which is we all love that about them.
You're the flat cap man on this for the Tottenham Tantrum Army. And the other side of me is the man whose brother scored many a good goal. I don't know what happened to him. Jeans must have got lost somewhere down in the laundrette.
Something like that.
But let me introduce you to the Phil that is. How are you, Phil?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, busy day, but a good day. And always good to be streaming about Tottenham.
Yeah, well, I have to say you've put an awful lot of work into this, so big up to you. Just a quick question to start everything before we get into it. Sugar's managers, Brian.
Yep.
Where do you start?
Well,
they don't have to pull your hair out.
They do, but what we've got to look at when we go through this, they did pull your hair out. They completely did, but you got to remember, compared to where we are now, the manager's expectations weren't very high. It wasn't right. You've got to get top four. You've got to win the cup. You've got to. It was try and get us as high up the table as possible, and try and have a good cup run, and if possible, batter the filth. That was it.
Yeah.
That was the expectations of being a Tottenham Hotspur manager under Sugar's tenure. I believe it was with Levy to begin with until we started the Martin. I think Martin Yole was, and I always say this was the catalyst where things changed and the expectations went a lot higher as to where we are now. But under Sugar, these managers weren't expected to put up trees. It would have been great if they did, but that's got to be taken into account. And like you said, yeah, there are some right stinkers. There are some right stinkers in here.
There is. Big up Derek Hutchinson for joining us. Is a big up you guys. Big up Derek. And also we have. I'll let you read this one out, Kuva.
Oh, it's from Eugene. Yeah, it's from Eugene.
Is that Eugene? Oh, big up Eugene.
Big up Dermot, Kuva, Phil, and Brian. That's been always a pleasure to see Eugene. It's does the Persuasion channel, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does.
Indeed.
Fantastic channel with some really nice laid back people they got on that channel. It's always a comfortable watch, that one, at any time of day.
Big shout out to JB, his co-host as well. So it's Eugene and JB. Big shout to both of them.
Yeah, exactly. Same question to you, Kuva. Sugar's managers. Where do you begin?
I think weeping in a skip somewhere, probably. No, it wasn't the greatest of times, was it? I mean, it was a bit odd because we had some fantastic players getting signed, and then the manager didn't seem to match what the talent we were bringing in. It was very odd.
It was. It really was. I mean, Eugene wants to know why you're holding the hairdryer, Brian.
It's not a new hairdryer. It's my brand. So I've had this microphone since we started Tottenham away. But because I had a tablet, I could never, ever get it to connect. So now I've got a laptop that I can use. I've been able to connect it to this microphone.
Yeah.
And now it's just trying to find the correct way to hold it. And if I put it down here, is it too quiet? Is it too loud or whatever? So let's try it here so it doesn't look like I'm holding the hairdryer. Can you still hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can see you fine. Yeah.
Okay, so there you go, Eugene. Hairdresser away.
Right. Well, I just want to give a bit of background to this. Well, before Alan Sugar, we had Scholar, and Scholar's last manager was Terry Venables, who we won the FA Cup with in 1991. Now, the club were in £8 million worth of debt. $1 million bank were going to close on that debt, so it all depended on selling Paul Gascoigne, which, as we all know, didn't happen. And Gaza did what Gaza would normally does, self-destruct, bless him. Then a consortium of Terry Venables and Alan Sugar bought the club. And that's where this story starts. And Sugar's first manager he appointed was an old Tottenham manager from the 80s who took over from Keith Birkinshaw, was Peter Shreves. Brian, what was your memories of Peter Shreves for you? Were you excited because he was assistant manager to Keith Birkinshaw for all them glory years in the early 80s? Did you think that we were going back to them times again?
So with Peter Shreves, I mean, what we're talking 1991-92 season, so I was 12.
Yeah.
So when it comes to being excited, I didn't know the knowledge that I know now, obviously, of managers. I was, as we spoke in a previous show, obviously at the time I was devastated that Terry Venables left. Devastated because he was such a personality and synonymous with Tottenham and had just won us the FA Cup. So Peter Shreves wasn't one that I'd say I got excited about, but it wasn't one I got disinterested with because I didn't know any better. But yeah, there was some Jekyll and Hyde performances in that range. Yeah. We were either absolutely outstanding or absolutely diabolical.
Was that the year we were in the Cup Winners' Cup as well, weren't we?
Yep, and I just remember a great team goal from Gary Lineker against Porto, where it was one touch everything, and that was the beauty that we could do, but then we self-destruct. Yeah,
I think that was the year also, Coover, that we didn't win a lot at home, did we? The pitch went absolutely diabolical that year, didn't it?
Yeah,
had some disease in it or something along them lines, wasn't it, for that season?
It was strange. We had this period of sort of 10 years or so from the mid-1980s, mid-1990s, where we seemed to flop between being really good at home or really good away. And it wasn't one, it was never both. It was always one or the other. I remember the 86-87 season, we were phenomenal away from home. And then, like you said, come to some of the seasons in the 90s, we couldn't seem to win a match at times. No. It was a very strange thing. Was it all down to the pitch or was it more? It's hard to tell.
Yeah. And just a big up to Paul Brown. How are you, sir? Thank you for joining. And thank you for everyone that has actually joined in. Please like and subscribe. We're only 9 away from 100 subscribers. We want to get there before the end of the week or before Christmas.
For the end of the show.
For the end of the show.
Do you know what, Dermot? We'll get you over that number tonight when you come on Tottenham on Tour.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. And then we've got Aaron Dubb, my Dubb brother. How are you, Aaron? Nice to see you.
Brother. And
Eugene is saying hi to Paul. Phil, quickly, what was your remembrance of Pete Shreves?
Again, it was always the hope because, he'd followed in the footsteps of the great Mr. Birkinshaw. So you kind of got the impression he came in with the right philosophy, would have had that respect from the players, but he'd been manager before, hadn't he? This was like his second time around, and it was he'd done all right because he took over from Birkinshaw, then went away and then came back. And unfortunately, I know we're all looking at like your Poch and stuff now, but it doesn't seem to work when people come back.
No. Have you got his figures up there, Phil?
Yeah, I can share those now. So.
Yeah, this is his record for that season. Phil's done a lot of work into this.
See that?
Right. You can describe them, Phil, for us.
Right. So Peter Shreve managed from the 22nd of July 91 through till May the following year. So literally the one season. So 298 days and 10 months in charge. He played 42 games and won just 15 of those, with 7 draws and 20 losses in our league campaign. So he ended up with a win rate of 35.7. So again, not the greatest there. With regards to the cups, played 33, won 14 of them, drew 9, had 10 defeats. And again, scored 52 goals and conceded 27. So you can see the cup run was quite a high-scoring cup run there. But overall, his win percentage over the cups and the league performance ended up at just under 39%.
Guys, I'll go with you, Cooper, first. What's your reading into that? Would you call that a failure? I mean, we had a good run in the Cup Winners' Cup to the quarterfinals that year. But apart from that, was that the highlight of the season? For that one season?
You'd have to say so. It's pretty disappointing, isn't it? I mean, losing more than you win to start with, it's not a great season when that happens.
No.
But, it could have been worse, but it's not going to set you on fire, is it? It's
no.
It's just one of those appointments. In a way, it's like you could compare it to, say, a Nuno appointment. It's not who you'd really want, but it's somebody who's available at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing special expected, and we didn't get anything special. So it's pretty much what it does what it says on the tin.
And I guess that
Brian. Sorry, just wanted Brian, the same question to you. Apart from the Cup Winners' Cup, nothing really else excited us that season. It was Gary Lineker's last season as well for the club.
Yep.
Yep. I mean, was the Cup Winners' Cup the only highlight for you?
I think it was. I mean, you've got to look at it. With going into this window, or it wasn't even a transfer window. Then what am I talking about? Going into that season, we could not buy anyone because of obviously the debt that we'd been in. Finances were not available. We couldn't compete. Maybe we would have been able to bring in better because we had just won the FA Cup, and that was a big appeal for anyone back in that day. That was huge back then. But obviously, due to the financial restraints, we were just unable to. And then you've also got to remember, not only was this Lineker's last season, this was a sole season without Gaza because of what had happened in the FA Cup. So once you take him out of the squad, and you can't bring anyone in, let alone anyone of his class, which wouldn't have been possible back in then, you're not going to do good. It's like now if you said you took Kane and Son out of the squad, what did Tottenham do? It was a huge thing. So this for me, this first season, when I look back at it now, was just a free hit not to get relegated because of the financial restraints we had, and because of what our expectations were. It was just not to go down, and obviously never thought we would. But these records are very damning to see what they said. But the Cup Winners' Cup was the only time I can really recollect, if I look back and try to remember games where we actually put on some good performances. So that would be the only highlight.
Yeah, Phil?
I guess what I would want to try and clarify for the people that weren't around then is we had to sell. You said we were 8 million in debt, and we were selling Paul Gascoigne for 5 million. So Paul Gascoigne at the time was probably the best player in the world. So if you equate that to today, that would say you were 150 million in debt because you would have to sell Kane to balance and still be nearly 40% worse off. So we were probably, in today's money, about 300 million in debt, give or take, somewhere between 250 and 300. So when you start looking and thinking, who are we going to buy this season? The answer is nobody. I can't remember. I think the transfer about 68,000 that summer, wasn't there? It was
for 1991 it was 68,000. I think for this year we spent around 4 million. I mean, we bought Gordon Jury, didn't we? That was one of the bought that as a striker. I think we bought a few other players. But yeah, the money that we spent wasn't a lot.
No,
Well,
but again,
the thing is, well, that Phil. Sorry, just quick, I just wanted to come in on what you said about the Gaza fee. It was actually meant to be 8 point something, but because of that knee injury and selling him a season later, it went down to the 5 point whatever we sold him for. So originally, Gaza would have wiped the debt out, but because of that injury, it went down 3 million.
And,
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is, how do you replace Paul Gascoigne? I'll tell you the answer to that. There is no replacement for Paul Gascoigne. There is absolutely, and at that time there was no one who even came close. I can't remember in world football somebody you'd be thinking, yeah, maybe, but that's where we were, and it left a depleted side, but certainly a depleted side on a lot of talent, and it was kind of the start of the transition. And my concern is this the start of where we became mediocre and we all accepted it? Because for this year it was like, well, at least we've still got a club.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of that euphoria that we still had our club. So I think that season, really, we got that. Sugar got a free pass that season because he was, at that time, he was being lauded up as the best owner since sliced bread. So, right, I want your ratings. I'll start with Brian, and then I'll go from Cooper to Phil. Ratings out of 10 for Pete Shreves.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, my God.
Do you need the time to think about it?
No. I mean, what you've got to look at again is don't just put in his win. Don't just do it on the win percentage, because obviously he came into, like I said, the expectations weren't super high.
No.
That's what I'm basing these marks on, like what his expectations were. Did he succeed? Did he manage to do something? So, yeah, do you know what? With Derek Hutchinson, I mean, I'll go 7 at the top. I'm going to go on the fence kind of thing, say 6.5.
Okay. Phil?
I'm going to give him a bit of leniency, and I'm going to give him a solid 7. It was a poison chalice. Anyone who wants to take over a club on knowing that you've just, and we hadn't sold Paul Gascoigne, we'd lost Paul Gascoigne. He wasn't playing all season. It was a troublesome, and he kind of steadied the ship. Not the greatest of record, but he did steady it. So I'm going to go for a solid 7.
Okay. Coover?
Yeah, it's a difficult one because of circumstance, isn't it? You can't say it certainly wasn't shocking, but not brilliant either. So it's that mid-range somewhere. For me, yes, it's a 6. I mean, he did what he was there for, steadied the ship. Mm-hmm. We weren't in danger of going down. There was a nice little cut run in there. You could argue a 7. I wouldn't be against that. 6, 6.5, 7, anywhere around there.
I'm going to be really harsh here. I'm going for 5. I remember that season being horrible, and the Cup Winners' Cup only being the highlight for me. So I'm going to go for 5 out of 10. So I'm going to be really harsh here. But that was Peter Shreves. Then next we got in the next 2 managers. It was a joint management. Peter Shreves went, and then Tanner Venables brought in Ray Clements and Doug Livermore. Now, they promoted them, I think, within the club at the time. It was also the year that we bought Teddy Sheringham from Nottingham Forest. We bought Neil Roddick. It was the emergence of Darren Anderton. And if I'm rightly thinking, Nicky Barmby as well come into the first team squad this year.
Correct.
We had a great side. It was a good young side. And it was a side that was going to go places. So, Coover, do you want to go through their record for that season, if you can see it?
Well, yeah. Well, it's a average enough league form, isn't it? I mean,
actually, before that, Coover, what was your remembrance of that season? Sorry, I'll do that first. What do you remember of the 92-93 season? Was it an improvement from the season before?
There's signs that we're starting to get some bits of our game together a bit, and some players coming through, but there was nothing so significant that you thought, oh yeah, this is the dawn of a new era. It's just like promising little bits, but I mean, was it enough overall? I'm not so sure. It was kind of more of the same for me anyway.
Yeah.
Except for
this would have been the first Premier League season as well, wouldn't it? 92 to 93.
Yeah, I mean, there was just so much hype about it, and at the time, we should have been one of the big teams going into that Premiership era, but because of the club nearly going under, we missed out on all of that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it could have been us doing the Manchester United. It really could have. It should have been perhaps, but we missed out, and there was a sort of deflated sense of we're not getting players in, and we've just seen a very small, very modest spend on players, and we were sort of thinking, is this the future? Is this what we're going to have to put up with? But it changed a bit. There was a little sense of optimism, but it was modest.
Brian, what was your thoughts on this season? Was it for you an improvement or?
Oh, it's a huge improvement for me. Style of football, play. I mean, you got to remember, we just lost Gary Lineker, the greatest striker England had at the time, a phenomenal goal scorer, and he was a poacher. He was blessed with pace. He had everything, and we brought in Teddy Sheringham, who, don't get me wrong, even when we signed him, I was happy with, but he is completely the opposite. Yeah, he's a goal scorer, but he's got no. It's his head. Some of the goals we scored that season, another team goal against QPR, where it was one touch all the way down the left wing. Then the headers this guy could score, the range of headers, the partnership with Darren Anderson and Nicky Barmby when he came through. My God, I remember one goal, a stooping header against Wimbledon in the FA Cup, which was absolutely outstanding. And that was a great little team going forward. I loved this team, especially with Razor and Mapper. That was brilliant at the back.
It was. I just wanted to get a few comments here. Phil Brown says, IMO, Rowe, Nick, Birkinshaw. Okay, blast me now. Phil, let you answer that one.
You can't argue with those three, can you? Without doubt, the greatest three in our history, but bar nobody. If that's the right, I'm hoping that's in chronological order rather than talent order, because maybe Nick and Rowe might have just swapped around slightly.
Yeah.
No, that was there. And Eugene, he says, this is a great show. Going to get some sleep. We'll be on Talk to Talk later. This is good for me to learn and understand our club history. We'll catch a recording later. Come on, you Spurs. Well, thank you very much, Eugene. Very kind words. And Derek Hutchinson with a big 7 for Peter Shreves. I still think you lot were being lenient, being too nice to him. Anyway, Kuva. Oh, sorry, Phil. What was your remembrance of that season?
They were the seedlings of some hope there, as we've talked about with the players, with your Anderton. Sheringham was a good sign. Well, it's a great signing. Jury was a good signing. But we were sluggish at the start, and we just never really kind of got going with any momentum. It was almost like a typical 90s Tottenham performance. There's a bunch of great players there, but we just didn't seem to do it. But again, having Mabbutt and Ruddock at the back, great. The central defence was great, but you can see
Dean Austin as well.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Dean Austin as well came through, didn't he, that season as well?
I think that's the season we signed him in Edinburgh from Southend.
Yeah.
Oh, no, they were there for 91. They were there for the 91 FA Cup final.
Well, of course, it must have been, yeah.
So when you say back four, it's not a back four that we're all looking at going, oh my God, that's leaking goals. That was a great back four. The two fullbacks were both very attacking. So, Mabbutt and Ruddock contributed with goals. So what didn't seem to be a problem. But you can see from that, we conceded more than we scored, and over a season in the league, it's just not right, is it? So,
what was your most memorable game that season, Brian? If you could pick one game out, think.
I can. It's the Southampton 4-1 where we scored 4 goals in 4 minutes. It was literally raining. I think it was this season. It may have been the next, but I think it was this season though. But that game, there was a few games where Teddy Sheringham destroyed Norwich, QPR, but that 4-1. How often do you get to go to a game or watch on TV? Which it so happened to be on Sky that day, because I remember Andy Gray going mental at this game. Yeah, it has to be that 4-1 against Southampton. Has to be.
Yeah, Phil.
Yeah, I have to go the same. 4 goals in 4 minutes is it's unheard of, isn't it? So
yeah,
just phenomenal.
Coover.
Funny enough, I'm thinking the same thing. It's because it reminded me of the 86-87 team when Clive Allen got these 49 goals. And we had a habit in that season of scoring goals in little bursts. It'll be like 12 minutes and we've suddenly blown a team away with 3 or 4 goals. This was like a condensed version of that. It was really bizarre, really rare.
It was. And Paul Brown has just put in the comment. It says, that season showed the dreaded 4-letter word, potential, glimmers of hope. That dreaded word, hope, has haunted us for years. My most memorable game of that season was the away to Man City in the FA Cup quarterfinals, where
the penalty.
Yeah, and Naeem scored, I think, that day, didn't he? And
yeah,
what was it? Man City scored, and all the Man Cities then he ran the length of the pitch and scored against us, and all the Man City fans ran onto the pitch. They had to get horses on that day, which was quite funny because all the Spurs fans were just laughing.
I remember it was Terry Phelan.
It was.
Phelan that scored that goal.
Yeah, and all the Spurs fans were laughing at the Man City fans. Just go back, We've beaten you. Till we lost to them lot down the road to Tony Adams.
We won't go into that one.
No, thank God for that. Right, Phil, read this out their stats for that season so we can debate that.
I guess the other big concern there is that we're 2 years into Sugar's tenureship and he's had 2 managers and we're already looking for another manager. So there's no kind of consistency there. So he managed for the 13 months. Again, a big league. So 42 league campaign or league game campaign, 116, which is just over 38%, drew 11 and we lost 15. So at least we won more than we lost. Again, goals for 60 against 66, which again isn't great. But he did have an exceptional cup run, although it was only the one season. But 9 games played, 7-1, 2 defeats, and unfortunately, we do know one of those. But we scored twice as many goals as we conceded in that, and ended up with a good run. So it gave Livermore and Claremont an overall win percentage of 45.1, which is exceptionally high in the Sugar years.
Yeah, I think one of the things that always makes me undervalue the managers during this period was having to watch what was happening down the road at that lot, because they were having superb times and it was hard to take, and then us having to put up with mid-table football season after season after coming off a FA Cup win with Gascoigne and Lineker in the team, and you're just thinking everything's amazing, and now look at it. And despite Teddy Sheringham going, despite Anderton, you just look at that league form, it's ups and downs. You get a great game followed by a real shocker or something just really disappointing when you're expecting the win. And there's no sense of momentum. We just had that cup run, really.
I mean, it really was, Brian, wasn't it? It really was inconsistent again. There was nothing there, was there? I mean, like we'll go to Sheffield United and lose 6-1, but beat Norwich 5-1 at home. I mean, there was it was so inconsistent, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the nature of the theme here. With Tottenham, you didn't know what you were going to get. It was literally up and down. But again, the expectations, were that this is what we expect. This is what Tottenham delivered. And I mean, Kuva was just saying about certain players. I mean, if you look at it, that spine we had at that time, if I said to you, Like at the time of winning FA Cup, the spine was Torsvet, Mabert, Gaza, Lineker. If they were all in their heyday right now, I would have no problem them being the spine of our team right now. Like right now, they would be absolutely streets ahead, especially a certain number 8. But this is what to be expected, and with, like Phil's been establishing through this with these great slides, is you're still. Like Phil said, you can't underestimate how big a debt that was at this time. When he said, when you try and put it in today's kind of money, and I sound really old when I say that because I sound like my dad talking about shillings and pence. But when you try and put it into today's money, it was big problems, and we had to readjust to that. And seeing that we weren't challenging for Europe. In fact, the only thing we were allowed in Europe. Oh no, we were, because we were in the Europa Cup, the UEFA Cup the year before. It was the money in football wasn't there nowadays, and we were coming back from a club in debt, trying to stop treading water. It's time to start actually swimming in it, and it took a long time. But this team gave us a lot more enjoyment and fun than the previous year. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, I mean it was a good year, but again, as I used to say, Tottenham always shot themselves in the foot. You're always ready for that down moment. Then came in the summer the boat out of the blue, Sugar sacks Venables. Now I'm going to go around and get everyone's reaction for it at the time. For me, I was for Venables. I was against Sugar. I didn't want Terry to leave. I loved him at our club. But when you look back on it now, you can understand why Sugar did what he did. Brian, I mean, I assume you were Venables in and Sugar out at that time.
Well, again, at this time, Dermot, I'm like 13 years old, so I kind of like the football side of it. I loved, but the economics and the financial everything was meant absolutely nothing to me. I didn't understand it, but as I said, I think on your stream previously, my family had the banners out in the window saying, "I want my sugar, I want my tea with no sugar," and all those play on words and everything that was going on. And listen, Terry Venables, the lovable rogue, had a great personality, great attachment with the fans, and was an ex-Tottenham player. So it had all the makings of this is the kind of guy you want.
Yeah.
And you look back at it now, and what he was doing or allegedly doing, it's unacceptable. And Sugar was ruthless. Sugar was ruthless. And the great thing I love about his ruthlessness at the time was he will come out and tell you why he's doing this. He won't hide behind people like a certain other person does. He'll go and say, whether you like it or not, this is what I mean, and he would not. Yeah, but exactly. But he wouldn't mess his words. You'd know exactly why. Yeah. And his version of events. So, so when this happened, I was upset because obviously, and also more importantly, I wouldn't say I was upset. I was more upset not with Venables, but the players that then wanted to leave because of what was going on. That's the bit that got my attention.
Yeah, because there was big upheavals. Phil, were you Sugar in, or were you Sugar out and Venables in?
I guess hindsight is a wonderful. At the time, I was mortified because Venables then is like Conte now. He's like one of the best you could have got, but he wasn't really doing the football side. And if you put him back in charge of the football team, maybe we would have done a little bit better. Maybe it would have fared a little bit better. But Sugar was right. You couldn't have that kind of indiscrepancies or the alleged stuff going on when you're running a football club. And he obviously didn't want to have his reputation tarnished. So, as Brian said, it's like, he's ruthless as hell. And he probably did what he thought was best for Tottenham.
Yeah.
Ideally, he would have stuck with him as the manager, and we'd have carried on there. But there was all sorts going on. It was just another tale of woe that you just didn't want at the club. It was tough enough fighting the debt and losing players and losing momentum without losing one of the let's face it, one of the world's best managers at the time.
Before I get your comment, Coover, and I apologise, I'm cutting off your head every time I put up a comment, so I do apologise, Coover. So please,
Um,
maybe let you read out this comment, Coover, and get your reaction to it, actually.
Okay, from Paul Brown. Historically speaking, regardless of managers, owners, we never really change, unfortunately. Players like Mabbutt, Ricky Villa, Hoddle, Waddle, Lineker, Gaza, etc., yet a relatively bare trophy cabinet. I mean, you can't argue with that, really, can you?
No.
It's been like that for so many years now. We've got fans who have never known it any different. That's the sad thing.
Yeah.
You get some really passionate fans following the team, and they've not known any sort of glory. They missed out on the 80s teams, and they missed, obviously, most of us here have missed out on the Super Spurs, and even the some of the triumphs in the 70s. We had bad times in the 70s, but still won stuff. And now it's desolate. I mean, the last decade we won no trophies whatsoever. I mean, it's unheard of at this club. But
first decade, isn't it? The first decade since 50-51, we haven't won a trophy.
Yeah, I mean, the last time it happened, there was a certain little event called World War II that's prevented half the seasons being played.
Yeah.
It's shocking. We are a big club, despite what opposing fans say, and they mock us about, small club and everything. We're definitely not. There's comparisons with us and, say, Aston Villa in some ways, because that's another club that's underperformed for a long, long time. But it's a really big club. But for my own, it might be biased point of view, I think we should be bigger. We should be right up there, because we've not been unable to attract really big players for a long time, but recently even that seems to be tailing off. It feels like we can't get certain people anymore. Back in Sugar's day, we were signing some of these players. They were stellar.
Guys, I've just got to go.
I
I've got a phone call
get
about a
on to
job.
that.
I'll be back. Sorry, guys, I'll be back in literally 2-3 minutes. Okay.
Yeah.
No worries.
Okay, Brian. Yeah, I'll ask you about that when you get back that question, because I'd love to get your views on it. Phil, what would you say to Paul Brown? I mean, it was a great question. A great question. What would you say to him? And that was a great response as well, Goover. That was a good what you said.
It's honestly, as a Tottenham fan, it's bloody heartbreaking. Brian's asked me to go on his show and name your all-time Tottenham 11. Which, if you're putting that into, if you start looking at some of those players, but more importantly, look at the players who aren't getting a mention or aren't getting on, you're looking at it going, how have we been so unsuccessful for 37 years? It's like, I know people sort of talk about it. It feels like a curse. Sometimes feels like a curse. It's like, what do we have to go and do? And whether that's money or talent, I don't think it is. We have everything set up, ready to be able to deliver. But for years, we haven't. But again, look at those players. Hoddle, Waddle, Gascoigne, Lineker, from around this era. Graham Roberts, Gary Mabbutt. These are all people that grew up winning trophies. And we've had as good a players coming through that have nowhere near tasted the success. So it's a choke. It's a real choker for me. It's heartbreaking.
But great question, Paul. Thank you very much for sending in. And please get your likes and subscribes in if you're enjoying this content. Plenty more to come. If you do want to donate to the channel, you can donate. The link is down below. You don't have to pay to watch the channel, but any money that you do donate will get put back into the channel to make it even better. Kuva, I didn't get your thoughts on Sugar sacking Venables. What was your reaction to it at the time?
This is one of these questions I think we touched on another stream, isn't it? And he had no choice. As soon as those financial irregularity accusations are coming out and your manager's linked with it, there's one thing Sugar is, and that is a honest businessman. He might be ruthless, but he does everything above board. And you cannot have a manager with even if it's unsubstantiated, you just can't risk that the club being dragged through the mud. Sugar wanted everything squeaky clean, and he achieved that.
I mean,
I was going to say that there's something else significant about this particular season. believe this is the breakthrough season of a certain infamous player of ours that left under a bit of a cloud later. And he, in a way, he's kind of typified what was perhaps happening at the club.
Okay, because I was going to mention one player that we bought in 1991 for 68,000, and he did actually score 2 goals against the old enemy. Is this the same player you think you're talking about?
No.
Well, it was Mr. John Hendry.
The player who was talking about, we don't,
hang on, I just
we don't
finished
have a
this.
name for him.
You sure it wasn't you? You sure your brother didn't come to play for us for a season under a different name? John Hendry, he scored 2 goals, didn't he, against the old enemy?
Final day of the season, yeah.
Yeah, at the last, it was the match before they played Sheffield Wednesday in the FA Cup. I wonder whatever happened to him.
Don't know. He's one of those players that never really made it. It's big time anywhere, but he's been around a few clubs, if I remember right.
Yeah. So who's this player then, Coover?
What infamous player that left us under a big cloud? Yeah. Who's the worst player that you could think of? Every fan hates.
Not Judas.
Yeah. I think the 92-93 season was his first season with the club, if I remember rightly.
It was actually, yes.
And it sort of tied in with the. It's a strange thing. It ties in with this lack of ambition thing that we keep talking about in more recent times as well, because there is a conversation. We'll have to perhaps do it on another show, but there's a conversation to be had about whether he was actually right with what he said when he left, because we didn't perhaps do what we should have been doing at the time. You can see the big name players come in occasionally, but will we back it up with big name managers? That's really debatable, isn't it? I'd say not.
You've just left off the trapdoor by mentioning Judas. I had the trapdoor ready for you, Cooper, if you're going to keep mentioning Judas. Right. Do you want to get right? So Doug Livermore and Ray Clements and Terry Venables say goodbye to the club. So what does Sugar do? Well, he has to bring in somebody to appease the fans. And I still can't believe I'm going to say this. This is one of 2 managers I sit down and shake my head in disbelief. One of them is the conductor, which it will come to light later. We had Ozzy's dream. Actually, Brian's back.
Brian, bad boy, sorry about that.
That's okay. Just very quickly before we move on to Ozzy, which I'm shaking my head now, even thinking about. Paul Brown's what he sent in. What's your response to that?
Well, I mean, first of all, there's so many players you can actually mention on top of that. The defender we have for one season and was outstanding in Richard Gough was absolutely outstanding. There were so many other players that Paul Allen, Clive Allen, Paul Allen, very, very, very underrated. The list could go on, and the fact that we were still winning trophies, but you look at that team now and think what that team could, their capabilities were a lot bigger than what they did. It's just a shame. But the staring point is the final comment. Yet still a relatively bare cabinet. Tottenham should have done so much more, but they just failed to do so.
We did. Right, so we go on to the 93-94 season. If you got up there, Phil?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, Mr. Ozzy Idealist. Now, Sugar brought him in to appease the fans. Steve Perryman, the great Steve Perryman, came in as his assistant. Brian, what was your thoughts on Ozzy coming in with Steve Perryman? Were you just thinking... Oh my God! Because he didn't do too well with Swindon, did he? Before he came to us,
he didn't. But like you said, he did. This appointment was exactly like a certain someone did with Glenn Hoddle. It's exactly that. Exactly what you said. It's to appease the fans. Now, again, still at this age, I was then getting more of an understanding about the the financials, and I started to go a lot more often. And this was like the time of year or time of my life when my parents would let me go with my friends. I didn't have to go with my dad or whatever. So I started going to a few more games, and he, like you said, he did abysmal at Swindon. Let's be honest. And all these players have, when Tottenham Hotspur come calling it, someone like Ozzy Ardiles, like Frank Lampard and Chelsea. You go. There's not.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Glenn Hoddle had in his contract that if any team comes in, you can say what you want. But if Tottenham Hotspur come in, then I can go agreed fee, because obviously he couldn't say no to the job. When Ozzy came in, you knew the attacking philosophy was going to be like we all know about the famous 5 in his second season. So when he came in, I was one of those that lapped this up. But this is the reason now for people like him why I hate ex-legends coming back to manage a football club. Because if it doesn't work out right, Ozzy's always going to be remembered as a legend at Spurs and remembered for what he did on the pitch. But there's that little black mark against him for his managerial reign at Tottenham Hotspur, and that's why I hate it. I mean, but I was one of those that loved it because he was coming back.
Yeah, Cooper, what was your thoughts on Ozzy coming back with the great Steve Harriman? And was it like Brian said, as I said, it was just? Did you feel it was just to appease you as a fan?
No, I absolutely love the bloke. I mean, these Ozzy Ardiles scampering around the pitch wearing Spurs colours is one of the greatest sights I've ever seen. He's just magnificent. So when he comes in as manager, and I'm thinking, great, we suddenly saw these amazing signings coming in through the door that Sugar wouldn't have been able to provide these without having Ardiles as the figurehead.
Well, that was the second season, wasn't it? The first season, who did they bring in? Jason Dezelle from Ipswich?
Yeah, we'll ignore that one.
Move on to night before. That was a way better summer.
Yeah, but I just wanted to say, was it you, Cooper, that said about saying to Teddy Sheringham? Was it you that told me that about you stay up there, everyone get the ball to Teddy?
I think Brian will probably know that story better than I will. He probably has a little bit more to flesh it out more.
Do you know what, Cooper? First time I heard that story was from your fair lips. So that was actually that was actually brand new to me.
Oh yeah, it's basically
Let's all gather around with story time with Cooper.
Trouble is when you're trying to quote someone and you can't remember exactly the wording of the quote. You can only get the gist of it.
Yeah.
And it was basically Teddy Sheringham saying later on that Ozzy Ardiles' tactics involved get everybody in the dressing room to say, right, you get the ball to Teddy Sheringham. The second it's at his feet, everybody charges forward. And Teddy Sheringham just looked straight back at him and was going, "You what?" Like he can't possibly cope with that amount of pressure because we're going to be instantly counter-attacked if he loses it, and there'll be nobody there in defence, which kind of showed in our results in a lot of games. But personally, I love the football like that. It was crazy. It was mad. You couldn't get away with it back then. But I look at it nowadays and you think, it's not really that unsimilar to how Man City play, is it? It's all about the attack, throwing everybody forward. I mean, obviously they got better players to shore it up on the other end, but it was. You could say it's too far ahead of its time because you needed to have you needed good defense back then. There was no way around it. Same as a lot of teams do nowadays. But if you really do have those top players, go for it.
Yeah. You go anywhere. Very quickly, I didn't get the 7s out of 10 for Doug Livermore and Ray Clements for that season. So, Brian, quickly, 7 out of anything out of 10 for Doug Livermore and Ray Clements for their.
Oh, do you know what I said when I was coming into this stream? I'm not going to let my heart rule my head because Ray Clements is someone very, very special to me.
Yeah.
So this is hard, and again, you've got to look at expectations of what the club was. Oh Jesus! I'm actually going to drop it. No, I'm going to stick at my 6.5.
Okay, 6.5. Okay, Phil, are you writing these down by the way, Phil?
No, but it can do. I'm going to give him a solid 7. I don't think it was much of an improvement on the previous year. So
6.5 for Brian, 7 for you, Phil Coover.
Yeah, I'm in that sort of range as well. I'm going to stick with a 6, I think.
Okay, and I'm actually going to go for a 7 because we had a great cup run that year, and we had good times. Right. Derek Hutchison put 5 out of 5 for Doug Livermore and Ray Clements. Then he says that about the Aussie years, which is spot on.
Yeah.
That's just a spot on comment. Derek, that's brilliant. Paul Brown put on a Legends returning literally appease his fan base PR stunt and really works out. Unfortunately, nostalgia. Agree with that, lads?
Yeah.
I think you got to, haven't you?
Yeah. Right, Phil, Aussie, how did you feel about him being appointed to the club?
It was a great appointment, but it was a fan appeaser, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It makes a question of who is the greatest player that's then gone on and become a great manager, and I still struggle really now. Possibly Franz Beckenbauer, but generally you don't remember great players becoming great managers. A lot of the great managers were just obsolete when they were players. Even if you look at Premier League era. So it was great fun to watch, but it was proper. It was also horrible to watch because unless you were 4-0 up with 5 minutes to go, you were never comfortable.
No. I just want to get this up very quickly for a few minutes. Josh, the Tottenham guy, and I know Josh, we all know Josh well. He's doing a charity gig on the 1st of January 2022. I don't want to go into too much detail, but his daughter hasn't been too well. Thankfully, now she's on the mend. And he's doing a charity gig. He's trying to raise €500. As David Harris on the Irish Hotspur said last night, he'll have our support from this channel, and we'll do all we can to support Josh in that. And
absolutely,
we'll all, as a Spurs family on this, all the Tottenham Tantry Army will also support Josh. So please tell everyone about this. It's on the 1st of January, and we will remind you again about it. But he's a top guy. He does his own show, Josh the Tottenham Guy. And he does. He's doing the 4 Hotspurs as well, which sadly I had to leave because of my own channel and other commitments, which I was a bit upset in leaving. But it's just YouTube. It was just this channel is now blown up, so I got to put all my efforts into here. But he is a top guy, and please, everyone, get behind this charity. Don't let him get to 500. Let's get him to 1,000. Let's double it. Everyone, I know everything's tough at the moment, but it's for a great cause. So let's get them to 1,000, not 500. I don't know if any of you lads want to plug anything quickly.
Yeah, I'll quickly say something on it. I mean, Josh, as we know, is a stand-up, brilliant guy. The charity he's doing it for is Cosmic. Everyone should have a look into what this organisation do for people with ill children and hospitalised children. It's a wonderful cause. I second what you said, Dermot, about your channel. Tottenham on Tour are going to be with him every step of the way. I've even said to him, if you want me for the 24 hours or for as long as I can, I'll be there. So I've already said that to my wife. So I said New Year's Eve, we'll have a good night, but New Year's Day, don't expect to see a lot of me. But yeah, it's a wonderful thing Josh is doing for an organisation that is right now very, very special to him, and very, very special to a load of people who have sick children. Yeah. So this is going to be an absolute honour to be a part of and promote.
Yeah, well, as for me, Coover and Phil, we'll do all we can. Josh, we'll be there with you, and we might even do a joint stream somewhere during the night, during the 24 hours, and we'll have a bit of fun as well as the seriousness of it. But we'll have a bit of fun and probably do an old watch along or something, and see can we get you. We will put the link in below if Phil can do that or Coover can do that. So you can get donations into him. But please, everybody, everyone, please get your donations over to them. It is a great cause, and let's get to 1,000. Forget 500. Let's double it. And I'm sure Tottenham Township Army, the Harris Army, Flat Cup Army, all the armies that on every YouTube channel were behind you 100%, Josh. So thanks for joining in as well, and we've got your back 100%. And Paul Brown says Josh, and then Josh just another comment. I would love to know Josh's out of 10s for the previous two managers. Just out, and what did he think of Ozzy? So I'd love to get him in the comments, and anyone else that is watching, get in the comments about how you rate these managers as well, because I'd love to hear. We would love to hear from you.
There's a scary. I was going to say, Dermot, there's a scary number in there. If you look at our league performance, we lost 50% more than we won.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that season we beat Oldham, wasn't it? Get guys to stay up. I mean, how was that for a season for you, Brian? I mean, it was hard stop and stuff, wasn't it? At some point, there was a real danger we were going to get relegated because we lost Teddy, didn't we? At Liverpool for a good majority of that season.
Yeah, I mean, this is the first season when you can genuinely say we were in a relegation fight. We were in the previous years mid-table or 14th, 15th, but it was never, okay, they're getting sucked into it. This year, we were completely, totally and utterly sucked into it. And the implications of it was dawning on me. And this is at the time where my school friends who are Arsenal, Liverpool, a lot Tottenham, like Stelios, who I was at school with, were getting a lot of slack. And it was very concerning. It really, really was concerning because you think about the finances. This is back when the Premiership hadn't even taken off, but the finances were starting to grow here, and Sky was getting more of a stranglehold on it. So this was the first time where genuinely, not only were you looking at Tottenham's fixtures, but you were looking at the people below you to really find out what was going on. So yeah, this was. I'd say this is the first season with Spurs where my heart started breaking because of literally that relegation struggle.
Yeah, and then after that, Phil. We have the summer of unbelievable. Jurgen Klinsmann.
Summer of '94.
Popescu. Who was the other? I'll tell you one thing, Phil.
Popescu, Dumitrescu.
Yeah.
Klinsmann.
What were your thoughts on that summer? Could you believe what you were reading?
No, I'll never forget. I was at work in Sainsbury's, and I remember this guy coming in on late night, and he went, "You seen the news?" And I'm like, "No, what's going on?" He went, "Tottenham have just signed Jurgen Klinsmann." I can remember going, "What? They've signed someone with the same name as the German striker?" That was my first comment. He went, "No, you've signed the German striker." And you were like, "He's just come off the back of a World Cup and he's signed for us." And we were in all sorts of problems then because when we were down on points, we were out of the FA Cup. We had nothing whatsoever to offer.
No, I think that was the following season, wasn't it?
No, it was that season.
Oh, of course it was that season. You're right, Phil. Yeah,
we got to the FA Cup and got semi-final, got battered by Everton and Daniel bloody catchy.
Oh,
I remember that.
I remember that Klinsmann was only there for one season as well, and that was the season.
Yeah, I mean we got done for that. It was paying players off the books, wasn't it? Or something along them lines. What the previous regime had done. Kuva, what was your thoughts when you heard that we signed Klinsmann and Popescu and the other one that I can't remember?
Dumitrescu.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that because I won't.
Ilya
Dumitrescu.
Yeah. What was your thoughts when we signed them?
Was jaw-dropping. I'll tell you what, throughout history, people will say, "Oh, you always remember the day when such and such happened." And you get it with when Princess Diana was killed, and I can't remember what I was doing that day. When 9/11, you'd think you'd remember what you were doing on that sort of day. I don't remember what I was doing. But when I heard Jurgen Klinsmann had signed for us, I remember exactly who was in the office I was working with. And I even remember what was on the sheet of paper in my hand. It was because I stood there looking at this thing. I thought, am I dreaming? And then somebody had to say again. It's much like Brian was saying. Well, Phil saying about you're like thinking it's got to be a different player they're talking about, surely, or this is a wind up. There's no way. And they said no, the dive bomber. And I just stood there. I couldn't process it, and I had to go and check for myself because I just did not believe them. And then, wow.
Did you go to CFAX to have a look?
Yeah. It was those sort of days, wasn't it?
Yeah. Pre-internet or early internet CFAX.
Yeah.
302 football.
But I mean, what a lineup coming in. It was
Or 140 on Channel 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. On Saturdays, the radio had to go on. You checked teletext, both CFAX and whatever was on the ITV. Oracle, that was it, yeah. So you'd be flicking between those, hoping to get a better score on the other channel if it wasn't going your way. You'd have the radio on. You'd read the newspaper about 8 times to get all the information you could. But yeah, seeing those players coming here was just a thing of beauty. It was a magical moment.
He didn't last too long. It only lasted to November before he got the sack. So, do you know, he lost after we lost, I think, was it away to Burnley in the League Cup? I think, was that his last game in charge? I think.
I can't remember.
If you can find out for us, Phil.
It was unfortunately it was destined to fail.
If you can find out for us, Kuva, just Google it if you can, because do you want to go through his facts, Phil? His record as Spurs manager.
So again, as we said, so in the league played 54 games, but he won 16 of those, drew 14, but then lost another 50%. So his win rate was under 1 in 3 games. At 20. Give or take 30%, which, you're at best fighting a relegation battle at a 30% win rate. It's just unsustainable. Cup form was ever so slightly different, slightly improved. But again, of the 11 games there, 1-4, lost 4, 3 draws. Unfortunately, it was just nowhere near good enough. The only thing he had going for him is it was great for entertainment and watching, but not for a Tottenham fan because it's too traumatic.
Yeah, and then Steve Perryman took over. I think he took over for the Blackburn game away. I think so. He lost. So very quickly, Brian, what's your marks out of 10 for Ozzy?
Okay, this is the only manager I'm doing this with, where I'm going to have to split it into 2. I'm going to have to do heart and head. I'm going to have to with this manager. So for entertainment and utter chaos, he's getting an 8.5. Just for absolute chaos and the famous 5, to go to a game and see 5 forwards.
I know.
And literally, the start of the Klinsmann run, when Klinsmann was on fire and everything he hit, it was unbelievable. But for his success, I'm going as low as a 3.5.
All right. Phil?
I'm going to just take all emotion out and just go 4. Unfortunately, he's a 4. You could, like Brian said, you could stretch it up to an 8 for the entertainment, but the other side of it was just. I mean, it's bad enough now, but it was just too stressful. So a solid 4 for Ozzy.
Kuva?
Again, I've got to approach it the same way Brian approaches it and split it into things. I'd also add in the category of hopes, because hopes for Ozzy Ardile is 10 out of 10. The entertainment value, it's 10 out of 10. It just goes flying in anywhere. It doesn't matter. Neutrals were loving it because you knew you'd get at least 3 goals in every game.
Yeah.
But then at the end of the day, it's a results business, isn't it? Like they always say, and they weren't good. So that's probably a 3 out of 10. So, if you're giving it an overall figure, I suppose it would be a 5, but it doesn't sound fair because it's so wildly one way and then the other way.
Yeah. Still can't find his last. I think it was against Burnley away. We lost anyway, so that was enough.
To find it, yeah.
Right. Do you want to go on to the next manager there, Phil?
You
Well,
haven't done your scores.
me, I'm going to give Aussie 8 because it was just so entertaining. You couldn't be sad with Aussie.
You're a very generous panelist there. But you're very, very trigger happy with your scores, I must admit.
You wait till you get to the one manager. I'm going to give him a roast, and believe me, he's coming.
Okay, let's move on then to Jerry.
Well, Jerry came in. So Jerry came in for during that season, 93-94 season, got us to the semi-finals of the FA Cup. Had that amazing win at Anfield when Klinsmann and Shannon both scored. I think for me that was the highlight of his Tottenham management career. I mean, that season was as high as it got for me. Brian, how did you feel about the Jerry Francis years?
So, first of all, you've got to remember he came in with Jerry Francis does not play five up top.
No.
He had such a unbalanced squad. And out of those three players we were talking about before, Dumitrescu, Klinsmann, and Popescu was the one I really loved. I thought he was a wonderful player and could have done so much more. And obviously, he went on to Barcelona and everything. He was fantastic. He also scored a winner in a 1-0 North London derby at Tottenham. And obviously, like I said before, on many a time, I was there for the famous 6-2 at Southampton, which, quite frankly, was one of the greatest, if not greatest, games I've seen live in my entire Spurs addiction. So Jerry Francis, I've got a soft spot for. I have, because we played so good. You mentioned that game against Liverpool. There was also a game where we destroyed Newcastle 4-2 and Sheringham got a hat-trick. I was also there when Jurgen Klinsmann scored that volley against Sheffield Wednesday from outside the half volley, which was a thunderbolt. So his first half of the when he took over to the end of that season, I loved him. But then things started going wrong. The one thing I did love watching Jerry Francis was in interviews, because he couldn't look at a camera. He was like, I've never seen a more twitchy guy in my life in interviews. But he didn't suit Spurs. Obviously, he had an illustrious playing career with QPR, was a fantastic player, and did extraordinarily well for them. But this, I think, was just a bridge too far in the terms of the size of the job, not where we were as a club, the expectations. But there are some wonderful memories Jerry Francis has given me.
Yeah. Phil?
Yeah, again, for me, I liked him. I thought he came in because he never had a contract, did he? It just rolled from month to month. And I remember Sugar signing him up one year, and he was like, this is the best signing we could do. We've signed him up. But again, he won more than he lost, so that was good. We scored more than we conceded, so that's good. So that's the first one of the four managers under Sugars that's had that record. Looks okay in the cup run, nearly 50% win rate there, and it is a higher one. But again, they're just over 3 years. It was another one was okay, but we probably were accepting a little bit of mediocrity then, despite the performance or the standard of that team.
Yeah, and Cooper.
Well, do you know what? Sorry, Dermot, just before you go to Cooper,
okay.
I think that comment Paul Brown said before about the players, you've got to look at it here, because we replaced Jurgen Klinsmann with Chris Armstrong. That's the kind of. Now, don't get me wrong. Chris Armstrong's first season with Teddy, he was brilliant. He was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, that one there. When you look at it about players we had, you can't replace a Jurgen Klinsmann with a Chris Armstrong. That's like the modern day Berbatov and Fraser Campbell. That's the and I was going. The first season with Chris Armstrong was my first season ticket, and I'll always remember he scored the winning goal in my first ever North London derby I went to with my mates. He played sensational when we battered Man U 4-1 in
New Year's Day, wasn't it?
On New Year's Day, and Judas scored a a volley, but Chris Armstrong scored a wonderful header, and his relationship, and he scored that. Him and Sheringham. I mean, Sheringham formed a partnership with everyone, but going back, this is when you look at these results, you can't replace a Klinsmann with a Chris Armstrong and expect it to be a good thing.
No, you can't. You rarely can. I mean, Chris Armstrong was no Klinsmann, so he did struggle at the club, and he never was my favourite player, to be honest with you, Chris Armstrong. Coover, what was your over the Jerry Francis era?
Well, I've got an entirely different opinion because mine's really biased. I mean, I'll make no bones about it. I had all these hopes about this Aussie Ardiles team with all the mega stars coming through and Jurgen Klinsmann. And then we're led on to Jerry Francis. And I thought, okay, he did well in that taking over at first. You know, he got that run to the FA Cup semi-final. And then the bloody ref robbed us against Everton. No, we got battered. But
was that the game? Is that the game when the referee was going about with £50 notes falling out of his pocket? We're not saying it was bent. We're not saying with that, but was that the game?
No, that's going to be George Graham era, isn't it? No.
Oh God, we're going to get taken down again.
Well, no, I mean, never mind. We won't go into it. Yeah, for me, it's just a biased sort of perception of the game because I'm all about everything's to do with the attack. I mean, I like to think I've got an idea on how we need to set up defenses and things. But for me, defenders first and foremost are there to get the ball to the attackers in an efficient way, and defense is just secondary. So I loved Aussie. Jerry Francis is the absolute polar opposite to that. He wants the sort of rigid, drilled in routines to sort the defense out. That's why he had so much success at first, because he's taken over that incredibly attacking team and then instilling a sort of defensive rigidity to the spine of the team. I mean, bringing David Howells in, replacing Popescu. For me, Popescu every day. But I mean, David Howells was a good player. He'd graft for you. So he had purpose. But for me, it's the things you hear later that summed up Jerry Francis for me. Like hearing he was offered Dennis Bergkamp, and he turned it down. But Sugar offered him on a plate, and he said he wouldn't know what to do with him. And I just thought, well, that sums up what I was seeing in the manager is somebody that doesn't understand attacking football. He's just got this. It's almost like textbook coaching manuals. There's no imagination behind it. It's you're looking at the opposition and how to stop them rather than going with how you should be playing. You should be taking the game to the opposition. He just doesn't fit anything I believe in with football. We deteriorated from that wildly attacking team to a very, very hard to watch team. And it broke my heart watching it because I just had so much love for Aussie. I think it's just unfortunate for Francis. He was the next one on. So he was the source of my discontent.
Right. Phil, do you want to go through his record as manager? And then I get everyone's scores out of 10 on him.
So pretty much today, 3 years in charge. Managed this in total for 146 games, but 119 in the league, winning 43, 36 draws. So again, that's an awful lot of points in that time dropped, and the losses. So he ended up with a win rate of 36%, which is a lot higher than some of them, and a considerable amount of games to base that data set on. And then the other one there is just his cup performance. I played 27, won 13, so literally just under 50% there. So he ended up with an overall percentage of just under 38.5%. So for the Sugar years, that was a very solid performance.
And I think he was the longest reigning manager under Sugar, I think, if I'm right.
Yeah, without a doubt. Yeah.
Before I get your scores on there, I just want to get a few quotes in. from people that are dropping in. Aaron Dobbs says, anyone remember that quirky, superstitious Jerry Francis had? Never looked directly at a camera when he did interviews. Well, Brian just got that, so thank you, Aaron. Thanks for getting in. Derek Hutchison, I get you coming up in a minute. Once I read this one. Precisely at THFC, much activity, ambition appears to be literary copy and paste. Unfortunately, regardless of the board, to be honest, mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Yep.
Guys, do you want to answer Paul's question?
I would say, yeah, just history is just repeating itself probably for the last 35 years. A bunch of great players, some average managers, and we're always there, even whatever stage you look at, we're always there going, well, we've got some good potential. Maybe in the next couple of years, if we carry on, we'll do it, rather than going, let's go and get the very best and put the club back to where, or closer to where it should be. We just haven't done it through lack of investment, but a naive mentality for me.
Yeah. Brian?
Yeah, no, the only thing I'll add to this is people look at this and see that people slate Sugar, and I'm one of them, but like I said, he deserves respect for what he did in saving us, and Klinsmann and things like that. But it gets to the point where with this chairman, we turned on the chairman, whereas now we're doing absolutely everything. Like people are turned on Højbjerg, people are blaming Kane, people are blaming this one, people are blaming that one, and they're missing the whole point. It's the investment or lack of, or when there is investment, it's in the wrong place. And it's exactly what Paul said. The two last board owners, or the owners and the board, it's mind-boggling. And it's mind-boggling more for me, not just from the board's perspective, but from the fact that a lot of fans refuse to see it.
Yeah, that's true. I actually agree with that. I mean, the fans refuse to blame the chairman now, where, as you say, back in Sugar, we were the first ones to turn on the chairman. So, no, I agree with that 100%. I rarely do, Brian. Coover, just a quick response to Paul Brown's question.
I think it's already been answered, mate.
Yeah.
We were so quick turning on Sugar. Sometimes you look back and think, well, we're a bit harsh. At the end of the day, we're a difficult lot to please when the football isn't going right. So it's difficult times for all round. But as Brian always makes the point of saying, we also owe Sugar an awful lot of respect for what he did for the club, because we might not have even been here now.
No. Right, we're getting on to managers.
Yeah.
Scores for the managers.
Let's do your scores for Jerry then.
Hang on. Well, Derek Hutchison's given him a 5. So that's Derek's version. Brian, out of 10?
I'm going to go with my man, Derek Hutchinson. I'm going to go 5 because it wasn't the best, but it most certainly wasn't the worst. Funnily enough, I think we all know the next one coming up is going to take some beating in the worst effects. So that one, this is going to be an interesting one. But yeah, I can't go below a 5, and I certainly can't warrant going above it. So I'm sticking with my man Derek Hutchinson and saying 5.
Phil,
7 for me. I thought he did all right for the time that he was there. So solid 7.
Coover.
Difficult one for me. I'll have to go with a countdown approach. 6 for the first season, then it just got rapidly worse. 5, 4. I'll have to give him a 5 overall because he wasn't terrible, but
yeah,
I felt he was disappointing.
And
I will give him a 5 as well. Well, Jerry
Francis, for memories, did get a 9 for my first years as a season ticket holder in some of those games, but I'm sticking with, like I said, there's only one head and heart, and this one is 5.
Yeah, I'll go for 5 as well. Jerry Francis, if I remember right, resigned or sacked. Well, I think he more resigned after we lost 7-1 to Newcastle. So he was then out the door. And then I think we got, who did you get in as caretaker?
David Pleat.
David Pleat came in. and then we got him.
David
Now,
Fleet,
this
the
is
man
like-
born to be caretaker.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just very quickly, big up Spurs 72. Thank you for joining us. Hope you're all right. And then we got this man. I don't know how you would describe him. I mean, I think he was so excited that he got a train ticket into London that day. I think Alan Sugar realised he cocked up straight away. Brian, I'll let you introduce this fella.
So first of all, the
Oh,
best way
okay.
to
I'm
the
giving
best way,
Coover time.
the-
I'm giving Coover time to think of something funny, so that's why I haven't given it to Coover.
Oh, got something. yeah.
the best way to describe him and his tenure was his surname. Let's just get that right. You got to remember as well. This was kind of a out of the blue, out of nowhere one, and I'm sure it's because Sugar had seen down the road David Dean done his due diligence and picked out Arsene Wenger and found a manager who knew nothing about knew a lot about the English league, but the English league knew absolutely nothing about him. And came in, and this was just, I remember that press conference. I remember the travel card. I got a train. I got a ticket. It's the ticket. And I was like, you're not in Willy Wonka. You're not in Willy Wonka. This is no golden ticket. This is no, and honestly, I've never been so depressed in the Sugar reign as being a Spurs fan. The only highlight, and it was the only highlight of this guy's reign, was literally David Ginola.
Yeah.
That was it. The only highlight. Everything else was absolutely embarrassing.
Mhm.
And that's all. I can't wait to rate this guy. I can't wait till we do the ratings.
Coover, I've got to let you have your say now. Sorry, Phil.
Yeah, Brian actually said one of the things I was going to say. You look at the surname, if you can imagine like a little American school kid saying it, that sums it up nicely. So the way they pronounce gross there is, this bloke was just. You can't even say Muppet because at least Muppet's got some sort of sense of what's going on. It's like, why? I mean, I've used this analogy on other things before, but his management style, it's like going into your garage and finding an old tin of something. You open it up and you don't really know what it is. It's nothing he did seemed. It was just bizarre. It was this who. What are we doing here? I mean, where do you even come up with this person in the first place? It's all I can think of was Sugar was on the source one night and had a bet or something on which bizarre manager can he come out with that nobody's going to hear of, and he came out with this one.
Yeah, he came out with this one, and I've come to hot. What did Aaron say? Aaron said this. He actually did say this. He says. He took the tube to Hot White Lane. I mean, honest to God, I mean, even then you knew it wasn't right. Phil, I mean, what can you say?
Exactly, you would have said White Hot Lane, not Hot White Lane. That doesn't. Jesus Christ!
I mean, there is nothing else to say. The only thing, if I want to defend him, he was probably a great coach because he did coach.
Hang on. What did you just say? You're going to defend him,
coach, but he was
right?
no
I'm sorry, Phil. That's sorry. You have to come out and then you're back in again. See,
it was by far Tottenham's worst ever managerial appointment. And if anyone can find somebody worse than that, fair shout to them. But certainly in my time, I couldn't. Yeah. I'd struggle to name somebody worse than that. It was just farcical from, like you say, from the second that press conference got announced, and Sugar's there going, "Can I be the world record holder for giving him the sack after 9 minutes or not?"
I mean, Paul Brown says here, pinnacle of his career was the axe question of the Montserrat VO5. Yeah, I would actually agree with that. I dread to know what his stats are like. Honest to God, this is.
Well, there you go. I'll do his stats. So, Do you know what? In keeping with the others, played 26 in the league, won 9, lost 10, so slightly ahead of his losses. Scored 35 goals, conceded 40, and then as dull a cup run as you could wish to imagine. Played 3, 1, lose, draw. 5 goals in, 5 out. So his overall managerial percentage is 34, with 33 in the cup and 34.6 in the league.
How long was he in charge for?
9 months.
Oh Lord Jesus!
So from November.
This conversation started.
Bizarrely, he started the next season, didn't he? And he should have dropped Ian Walker, but he didn't. And then whoever took over, which I think, it was basically brought in Espen Bardson, and we went away to Everton and won 1-0. And it was like, right, that was the difference. I do remember that one.
Mm.
Also, I think you should. Brian touched on it as well. The saving grace of this period was David Ginola.
Yeah.
I remember this being the time that you would go to a game and all you were hoping for was just one little flash of genius from Ginola, because you knew there'd be nothing else in the rest of the game. Absolutely nothing.
There's a story that I'd like to say. I took my ex-wife to a Tottenham game, and we went to see. I think we were playing Everton, and I think Grace was in charge at the time. I forget who was manager, but we went to see Everton anyway. And I said to her, "Are you enjoying the match?" She went, "No, I'm just following Ginola's legs all around the pitch." I mean, he had that effect on the female fans, didn't he?
And to be honest, a lot of the guys, not in that way, but he was so talented, you could not keep your eyes off him because he was at liberty to do something phenomenal at any moment.
Right, very quickly, we're going to rush. We're going to run through. I think there's only one more manager left after this, because David Pleat, I think, took a year as a was it caretaker manager for the year then, Phil, after Gross?
Yeah.
Right, Phil, what's your ratings?
Wait a minute. I need to stop you a second there. I think we need to abandon the sort of numerical system and go straight to smells.
Yeah, okay. Go on then. We're going to smells, Brian. What? I dread where this is going.
No, go on.
I'm giving him.
I had it all geared up at minus 1,882, as in we were formed in 1882. So he gets a minus one of those. And you've got to remember, when Phil was talking about the goals conceded in the league, 6 of them were against Chelsea on his home debut that I was at.
That's right.
So yeah, he gets 1,000 minus 1,882. And if I have to be serious, 0.
Okay, Phil.
I'm
waiting for Goovers.
I'm going to be generous and give him 0.5 because we scored a couple of goals and he picked Ginola.
I'm sorry, you got to have a 1 second timeout for that, Phil. There you go. 1 out. Back in. That's the naughty step for you for that, Cooper.
I think you have to abandon mathematics with giving this bloke a rating. It's just a naught seems like too much effort. It's just nothing there. Random luck that he had Ginola there. Otherwise, there isn't even that. He might as well not bother turning up. It was just pointless.
What's your score?
0. There's nothing. It's the only reason to watch Spurs at this point had nothing to do with him.
You sure? I think, probably his sex appeal. I think. Right, and myself, I'm actually going to give him minus 2,282,000,082. There you go.
There we go.
All right, Derek Hutchinson's given 2. I would love to get Aaron's and Paul's scores on that. I mean, that would be hilarious. Right, moving on. We had a year of David Pleat back at the team, in charge. Is that right, Phil?
Yeah. And
who was our next manager?
And It was Mr. George Graham, the last.
Right, I
manager.
won't put you on. This was the last manager appointed by Alan Sugar. Brian, what the hell was he thinking of? Serious to God. Was he that pissed off with the club that he decided I'll get an old gooner in to see what happens?
No, I actually think he wanted to win it, and he was doing well at Leeds. He was doing very well at Leeds. Listen, we're going to hate him because he was ex-Arsenal.
Yeah.
That was always going to happen. It was always going to be controversial, just like Rafa Benitez currently now at Everton. It was always going to be controversial. But at that time and in that period, George Graham won things. And the way he did it is he sorted the defence out from the back. He started from the defence, made them as tough to beat as humanly possible, and then started to build the team. But he didn't get time to build the team because a certain prick came over. But I mean, you look at these. What's the goals against there, Phil, in the league?
I've got 12 there. That can't be right.
Yeah, I was about to say, mate, that goal difference, mate. If we did win the league with a plus 116 goal difference, then I'd be very, very concerned with where we were.
Also, it was. I have to say this, and it grates me to say it, but it was the only trophy we won under Sugar, and it was an ex-Arsenal man.
Trophy. We got to a semi-final, which he was sacked for. Whether you like it or not, and whether you like where he came from, and whether you like the football or not, like we didn't like it with Jose, he won us a trophy. Yeah. We're talking here about how we long for a trophy and how we won a trophy and how he delivered.
Yeah.
He delivered with what he said he was going to come do. Now, and just for shits and giggles, watching him celebrate another Ginola run, the goal that hit the post and he thought it was a goal, and watching him run out of the dugout thinking that he'd scored and it wasn't, was just entertainment in it. That's probably the most entertaining thing under it. But listen, the football was not great. The players we could get weren't great, but he got the job done. It was to win silverware. And he is going to be the highest rating manager I give him, as much as I hate to do it, because he did what we longed for.
And he also took it to a semi-final. I will get on to that at the end. He's ended the reign in the club. Kuva, do you know what's your thoughts on the George Graham years?
I think it was the best appointment that Sugar made. Trouble is you have to get through that wall of red. If you can get past that, you can actually see the bloke is a winner. It's kind of like the Mourinho appointment. The bloke's a winner. You know you're going to get something. You're going to get the defence tightened up. Doesn't work out with Mourinho, but with George Graham, you could see there was progress being made. We became a cup side again. We prided on ourselves on being a cup side. We had that back. He won one. We're coming up to a semi-final. He was sacked just before the semi-final, wasn't he?
It was, yeah.
He was indeed.
That again echoes Mourinho again, doesn't it? Just before coming up to a final, he gets sacked. George Graham just before a semi-final getting sacked. And you've got to look in this particular case, that cup record we had under George Graham, we fancied our chances against anybody. It was bizarre because the league we seemed to struggle in a bit. I mean, I think we were about 14th when he left or something like that. But it felt like we were a better side than that. The cups we were just dominating teams in, and it just couldn't quite get it working in the league, which was a pity in some ways. But it's the end of the day. It's an ex-Gooner. It's going to be difficult for a lot of our fans to take, of course.
Yeah, it is. Phil, what's your thoughts? And then could you read us through his record as Spurs manager?
I'll do his record first because there's a point I want to show. So he played 97 games in the league, won 32. Again, lost more than we won. Had a win rate of 33%. But yeah, he came in his element there. 28 cup games, 17 wins, 6 draws, 5 defeats. But it's this figure here I want us to look at. So we have got here George Graham's win percentage in the league. Let's look at that against a certain Christian Gross. So Christian Gross ended up with a higher win rate than George Graham. And we're like, is that right? But that's what the data tells you. I know that's only part of the story.
The data's lying. The data is lying. I'm joking, Phil. I am joking.
Fine. But yeah, so I mean, again, the guy ended up with a 40% win record. That's taken into account everything, which is a solid performance. Didn't like the guy, loved what he stood for because he'd been done over by Arsenal. So he walked out of them and he thought, right, I'm going to take my revenge. I'm going to go and manage your rivals, and my job is to win a trophy. And do you know what? He did win a trophy. And, all of us now would kill for that. We were killing for it then. Was that the Alan Nielsen last minute header? Yeah.
Against Leicester.
And however bad the game was, and it was bad, didn't matter. Why?
No.
Because we won a trophy. We finished the century with a trophy.
Yeah. My thoughts on George Graham, mixed. One of the trophy, which is brilliant. I continued the record of winning the trophy in every decade. So you can't grant him for that. But do you know what I mean? Ex-Gooner, you can't really love him that much, but you can be grateful for what he done. Brian, marks out of 10.
Yep. 8.5, if not a 9.
Okay.
He gave me
Phil,
a trophy.
Marks out of 10.
He gave me a trophy.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, I went 8.5.
Coover?
I also went 9 because trophy and looked like we were going to get more. That's the key. It wasn't one-off fluke. We genuinely looked a proper cup side again.
Yeah. And I'll go for 8.5, the same as the others trophy and the same as Coover. Looks like we're going places. Well, the end of the Sugar era was on its way. As we have told you, George Graham was sacked. Glenn Hoddle was brought in for a semi-final. And then that brings us up to the Parasite, to the Numpty, to whatever you like to call him politely. And I can see Brian there, smoke starting to come out of his ears. We're not going to mention his name anymore, so don't worry. Very quickly, the three of you, I'll start with you, Brian. Sugar years, what would you give it out of 10 for the whole 10 years as him in charge as chairman?
Oh, Jesus. Right. Can I break this down into does it have to be one roundup thing, or can we break this up into little segments? Well, not little
you can
segments,
break it up into
segments.
you can break it up into as many segments you like.
Okay, so managerial appointments, 3. What he did for the club in saving, building the stands, bringing in Jurgen Klinsmann, 8.5. Trophies, 1 in 10 years, which is, funnily enough, a lot more than we have right now. 7. For saving us, 10.
Yeah, that's a great shout. That actually is a brilliant shout, Brian. Coover?
Well, again, got to start off with that, saving the club. How can you not give him a 10 out of 10 for that? It's just obvious. The rest of it, I think the players that he managed to source and offer to managers is really underrated. How much he did for us there. We were getting some amazing names on the table. Even the ones that didn't work out. I mean, like Sergei Rebrov. It was a big name at the time. We looked at Shevchenko, and then he was his sidekick at the time, wasn't he? And we thought, this is amazing. And we'd already seen Klinsmann and Dumitrescu and Popescu and that. Anyway, the signings, you got to say that's a really high mark for that as well. But it's the manager's bit that lets him down so badly, and that's the lasting sort of feel I get for him. So, Sugar overall, I'll give him a 5 because the good the good keeps him on an even keel, but there was a lot of bad to go with it.
Yeah. And Phil?
Again, swayed by the fact that without Alan Sugar, there'd be no Tottenham, so that does sway. I think for everything he tried to do for the club, I would give him an 8. For the football side and his achievements, probably a 5. So I think I'd nestle him in at just under a 7, I think, to be overall.
Yeah. For myself, again, 10 for saving the club. For managers, a 5. For Gross, again, 2 trillion to 1 down. I just can't believe I can't get over he did Gross. I really can't. But and for everything else, I would give him a 5. What have you got there, Phil?
So this is our overall scores. So no surprise, George Graham came in first place, then Peter Shreves, then Doug Livermore, then Jerry Francis, then Ozzy, and then this guy here equaling a 0. So Christian Gross right at the bottom.
Didn't you give him a 0.5?
Yeah, but if you do an average of 0.5 and 3 zeros, it nestles down to 0.
Or was that because you got put in the timeout for 2 seconds because of it? Because you're 0.5?
No, I'll stand by my decision. If you don't stop asking me, I'm raising it to a 4 to give him some points. But no.
Right. Brian, thank you for coming on. It's been an absolute honour to have you on tonight. Thank you for your input. Where can we find you, sir? Plug Tottenham on Tour as much as you like.
You can find me exactly at Tottenham on Tour. We're on the push for 1,000 now. We're like 218 away from getting to 1,000. The main reason we're really, really pushing to get to 1,000 is we are doing another mental health special, the original mental health show that we did on Tottenham Away. We're doing on Tottenham on Tour, and the aim is to get to 1,000 subscribers before that, because then what we're going to do is every single super chat we're going to donate to a Canadian mental health organisation, every single penny. So we're really aiming to hit it, not for our own personal gain, but so we can put on a show where mental health can get some donations. And yeah, you can find us. We normally do 2 shows at the moment. One on a Friday, which is the 2 Brians, and our regular weekly podcast, which just so happens Phil has been on there a couple of weeks ago, and we had a great time with Phil. And tonight's turn is the turn of the other 2 people that I'm sharing the camera with. We're both very excited to look forward to welcoming you and Coover Dermot. And like I said, always a pleasure to come on your channel, my man. Whenever I'm available, if you need something, then I'm here.
Yeah, well, there'll be plenty more content coming up for you, Brian. We've got a few shows in the works that I've got you pinned in for 1 or 2. So you're gonna love. We're doing one on Levy. We're doing that. We think about doing one on Levy, but it's an idea I've got on my head. So I need to discuss that with the other 2. But I've got you in mind for that big time.
No worries.
Phil, where can people find you, sir?
They will find me on here and the Tottenham Tantrum Gold, and they will also find me on the 4 Hotspurs and Josh's channel. That's where you'll find me, apart from obviously dropping in on various streams and always trying to be up to date with what's going on with the guys.
And Coover,
I'm sorry, I just want to mention something. I've just had a tweet come through from the Football Daily. Tottenham are interested in signing top young players. Brozovic and Stefan de Vrij are considered too old for the project.
Yeah, I saw that on We Are Tottenham TV. They were like, so again, it's like, who's is it like we've put Conte in, but we're not letting him run the stuff?
I hate to say I told you so. I hate to say I told you so.
I tell you what, this could be a Friday night.
We might find a way of compromising between people that Conte wants and fit in the younger role. I mean, there's plenty of players about there, so it doesn't sound good though, does it?
No.
Well,
this is
page to whoever talked about it earlier.
Yeah. Well, this is a comment me and Coover are going to do a morning show tomorrow morning. I let Coover plug that, but this is what we're going to talk about. So thank you, Brian. So we'll get that on because it needs sorting, and we will do a debate on the Conte and Levy transfers, and that's what I'm going to get Brian on for because I think that'd be a great debate. really and truly, who's controlling the club? Is it the manager or is it Levy? Is it Paratici? Is it Hitchin? I think we need that will be a debate we'll be having in the next few weeks, because I think that's going to be really interesting. And go back over the years of our transfers. What was our best transfer over the last since the 60s to up to now? So that will be something that's in the works. Kuva, where can we find you, sir?
Well, here, obviously, again, it's the same as you, basically, Tom. I'm here. I'm going to be on Tottenham on tour later with Brian, and basically, it's written this time, mate. I can see it. No, I've learnt it because I thought TOT. I've got to remember that because I'm being a TIT when I don't remember it. So, and it's worked. I've remembered it a couple of times now. Anyway, yeah, that's basically where you find me. But can I say, while Brian is here on our stream, we all know him for, it's Brian Daigle. He's the troublemaker. He's the Levy out guy and everything. But can I just say, as a person, Brian, the work he does around all the people he knows online and this huge community, he is the man that will have your back. If you've got Brian Daigle as a friend, you've got a friend for life. He will go out of his way to support you in every way he can. He's an absolute top bloke. You hear it. You don't need to see it for yourself. You hear it from all the people around there. There's volumes after volumes of people praising everything he does for them, whether it's spending time with them, finding out ways to help them. He's an absolute top bloke, and he deserves all the credit we can give him.
Yeah,
thank you, brother.
I will second that as well. And Brian, you've been very kind to me, offering your help and everything you've done for the Levy Out movement. I mean, coming over from Canada to England to do that, we'll be forever in your debt. You haven't just started a movement; you've started a family. So, do you know what I mean? Everyone, please get over the Tottenham Tantrum tour. Let's get them to 1,000 tonight. Let's do it. Let's do it tonight. And everyone, please get over there, because them two, Brian and other Brian, really deserve your help. They're a great channel. It's a great watch. Two great blokes. And Kuva wants to say something else.
No, I was just giving a thumbs up again. Right.
And Phil, do you want to say anything to Brian?
I wouldn't do a discredit to what Kuba said, other than I would echo that. Absolutely. You know, I've known Brian a short time now, and I feel like I've known him for months and years. And if I need something, I know I've only got to give him a ring or a message, and he will do whatever he can to help out. And that's, you can't fault it. Absolutely top.
Thank you, Phil, brother. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I mean, like I said, I keep saying it. What I do is based on my love for Spurs, my hatred for Levy, my passion to deal with mental health, which is something I've always been very open about. And obviously, like we've all said, this community is something very, very special. And I'm, as a tattoo will say, I'm a man of my word. And once loyalty is something that's very, very, very important to me. And forever I will be that way, sir. Thank you for allowing me to come on the show. Thank you for letting me be part of your life. And like I said, I will be back hopefully in February to get this parasite out once and for all.
Yeah. Well, as I said, that is a debate we are going to do, a Levy out debate. So we are, and hopefully we will get a Levy in on. So that will be a bit of fun. We'll try to get that in over Christmas. So that should be a bit of fun. Thank you all once again. Me and Coover are back tomorrow morning from 10:30 for probably about 40 minutes, just rambling on. We'll get somebody to come on with us, but it could be just two middle-aged men just talking absolute rubbish.
We've got a few guests lined up for a few shows. We'll work on the right show for each one, I think.
Yeah, and then Phil then will be back. We three of us will be back on Friday at 5:30 with either another debate or a game. So we don't know what we're doing yet, but we will think of something. It will be up on Twitter. You can find me in Tottenham Tantrum. That's where all the information will be going up. We will be putting the link for Tottenham on Tour below once we sort that out in the next 2 days. So the link will always be in there. And we'll also put the link in for Josh's charity channel for Josh the Tottenham guy. Please, everyone get over there as well and get your likes and subscribes into him. He's a top bloke and helped me a lot when I started my show. And please, everyone get over to the Irish Hotspur. Let's get them to 5,000. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for Dave Harris and Jack Konecki. I would have met these three wonderful people who are Klaus's very, very good friends. So everyone get over there, get them to 5K. Let's do it before Christmas. Let's give David a nice Christmas present. And all I'm going to say, thank you very much for watching. See you on Friday. See you tomorrow morning at 10:30. We'll be back Friday at 5:30. Thank you very much. Come on, you Spurs.
Levy out.
Leave it. Hang on. I'm
waiting for Levy out.
Yeah. We had to wait for the Levy out.